Hello Internet. Welcome to Cold. I don't know, Cold. I'm a girl. What? And I like story. I know, shocking. So as a writer, a female, and an enjoyer of stories, I have come across quite a few female characters, and I've noticed a bit of a trend. As a society, we like to call them strong female characters. But I have a tip for anyone writing or thinking about strong female characters. They don't have to be badasses. We've come across this trend a lot where strong female characters are kicking ass and taking names and my voice is gone. And those characters are great. Katniss and Rey are great characters and everyone loves seeing strong female leads, but what does strong female character actually mean? The general idea of a strong female character being a badass is some sort of like mass response to this idea that women were not strong characters and they were only romantic interests, love interests. Jane Foster in Thor, for example, does not much. So we decided to take badass characters and just make them women, and that sounds like a great idea. But here's the problem. We're still making these badass characters romantic interests. Rey and Kylo Ren, I'm looking at you. You make no sense. Please stop. Or are just male characters turned female. Taking a male character or a character who was originally written as male and just making them female does not a strong character make. I'm not talking about women taking roles originally written for men. That's great. There's just some tweaking that has to be done. We can see this with things like Overboard, the new Overboard and the new Ghostbusters movies. Simply giving a female a male role doesn't mean that she'll be strongly developed. Yes, that means a lot of male characters are not strongly developed, but for some reason no one really cares about that because that's just what men are, which is also rude and definitely a topic of discussion for another day. I'm just saying. But these female characters could be amazing, but they're not because all they do is put boobs in the equation without actually adding character development. We need to develop our male characters too, guys. I'm just saying. Like, I love watching people kick ass, but like, I am also a fan of character development. Just putting that out there. There are some really good, non-ass-kicking, strong female characters. Hermione Granger is mainly smart and determined, and yeah, she kicks ass, but only because she's the best at magic. She doesn't need to go through, like, battle training. Rebecca Bunch from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is fucked up, but a fully developed character from day one, and if you watch an episode of season 1 and then watch an episode of the current season, season 4, you wouldn't recognize her, and not just because her hair changed. Like, you actually wouldn't recognize her. They're like two different characters, and that's amazing. And then you get Sansa Stark, which is some of the best character development I've ever seen in any character ever, and she's not a badass character. She just is a good leader who's strong, savvy, and has learnt a lot. She might say she's a slow learner, but she learns. In learning, she's become one of the best characters, in my opinion, in Game of Thrones. So these characters, they know what they want and exactly what they need to get them without using badassery or male-centered skills. They're just women, and that's what makes them great. There are a lot of different types of modern female characters, and some of them really work. So a smart or a leadership-focused character can work. Hermione, like I said before, is an amazing character, and Morgana from Merlin gets close, but with some problems in character development along the way. When people are writing these characters, they tend to do two things. Make the women smart, but no one actually listens to them. Oh, I have a fuzzy. In the new Star Wars movie, if the men were to have listened to the women from the beginning, half of the subplots, including Finn's little side adventure, wouldn't have needed to happen. Or ends up with another insulting trope which says that women are just inherently smarter than the man-child immature men, which comes up a lot in sitcoms and romantic comedies where men are these wild, weird man-children and the women are just sort of standing behind them like, so can these smart leadership characters work without being Hermione Granger? Yes. In Black Panther, the men listen to the women and they win. And in the other instance, we get a TV show like Search Party where it seems like Dory is more mature than her weird ukulele playing kind of misogynistic boyfriend. But as the show goes on, you realize that she is just as immature as Drew, and her selflessness is what ends up fucking everything up. So there are ways to write strong female characters using that leadership Hermione Granger archetype. You just have to figure out how to do it with a more natural and not kind of stereotypical way. And the other main female archetype is the normal character with issues. Now, I love just like the normal female characters. I've been really into watching movies like Lady Bird or Frances Ha, which are actually both by Gerwig, which sort of just have women who exist and go through life and have to grow up, but a normal women with problems is a big trend at the moment. It's a really good trend in that it helps us see how women react to these situations, like Rebecca Bunch, which is great. And the other great things these characters do is they have their own shit to work out and they assert themselves to get what they want, like Sansa Stark. These are the strong female characters as they exist in daily life, the people who have their own stuff and they need to stop letting themselves be held back and fight for what they actually want. Can this work? Yes. Rebecca's a great example, and Gretchen in the first 3 seasons of You Are the Worst is amazing. Her struggle with depression is really relatable to anybody who's ever experienced that. But what happens when that goes too far? You end up with Gretchen in season 4 and the character of Francesca in Master of None. This has characters go back on established characterization. Both characters give these epic speeches to their male counterparts saying, I need to fight for me, what I want, and you don't get to tell me how I live my life. They still end up going back to the men. And it's just so frustrating to watch because you're seeing these women assert themselves and really fight for what they want and still do the opposite. Just cause this is often the case when the writers are mostly men and or the men are the main characters and they still have to win somehow. But then these epic speeches, which are right, end up coming across as just a box to be checked. A classic example of this is the film version of Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is incredibly frustrating because Holly Golightly gives this amazing speech and still ends up with the guy at the end, which doesn't happen in the book. Movies, man, they have to make everything a romantic arc for a woman, and that doesn't need to happen. It just comes across as just something like, well, we had her say it, romance. A big problem with treating female characters like this ends up looking like writers have a problem with femininity. I am pretty super feminine. I like that. I like my dresses, I was a dancer, and when I tell people I play the flute, I get a response that usually goes like, yeah, that tracks. Or people go, let me guess, flute player. But the problem is, a lot of the women above aren't celebrated for femininity. They're women, and some might be more feminine than others. More feminine women in the programs are still the ditzy ones of the group. In good things, namely Search Party or Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, the assumptions about characters like Portia and Valencia are turned on their heads, but in other ones, they're not. And that's not to say that women can't be feminine in these shows, but that you tend to see women who are more aggressive and more masculine, and that's a way to assert what they want. Characters like Nadine in The Edge of 17, who's actually quite a feminine character, but has this abrasiveness about her. And Gretchen in You're the Worst, it's not that these characters aren't feminine, they are, but they're given masculine attributes so that we understand them as strong characters, and that's really weird. It seems like there's this allergy to femininity. Or at the other end, where we want a strong female character, but we also have to be like, she's a woman, guys. We end up with Bryce Dallas Howard in Jurassic World. She can't run in those heels. It's just not right. If you want a really good example of a feminine, strong female character, I highly recommend you watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She is kind of the epitome of both extremely feminine and also her own woman and her own person. She exemplifies what I was talking about at the beginning. She's a strong character who is a woman. Once again, I want to stress that female characters having masculine attributes is not a bad thing, and if you are a more masculine woman, that doesn't make you less of a woman. However, I have noticed it as a storytelling shortcut so that we can identify female characters as strong. If a woman has masculine traits and is well developed, yay! But people put in these abrasiveness and kind of badass traits, these masculine ideas, so that they don't have to write a nuanced character. All I want is nuanced characters, guys. That's all I'm asking for. Please. That's how I come back to characters like Katniss and Rey. These are not examples, they're actually aversions of this allergy to femininity. But they started this wave of female characters that are essentially just male characters made women. Sometimes in poorly written stories, it comes across as a character who was written as a dude and just made a woman to check some sort of diversity box. Badass female characters are not a bad thing, but we have to be careful how we write them. We want strong women. If you want a strong woman, write a strong woman. Don't write a strong man with a vagina. So that's my discussion of strong female characters. A lot of this just has to do with writing with nuance. The problems we have with strong female characters don't come from some sort of societal issue with women as a gender, even though that exists too. It comes from the fact that we're not writing with nuance, we're writing from stereotypes. That doesn't work. And it's a problem with male characters too. Like I said, we expect male action heroes not to have character development. They just sort of exist to kick ass. And that's a discussion on its own. Oh my god. I need to take my hair down because it's starting to hurt. But it actually looks super cute. I'm actually super impressed with my hair right now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I have linked all my social medias in the description box below, as well as the lost vocal post I wrote. I have been very sick. I have not written another one, but hopefully I'll be able to start doing that again. I don't know. I'm not gonna be working over break. I'm gonna be sleeping, let's be honest. I'm playing Heads Up because I'm boss at that game. So thank you so much for watching. I post new videos on Thursdays. I will see you next week. Bye.